And back at it again with another live one for all my Bi-Conics Wrestling fanatics out there. And welcome to another Raw review where your host, Mikey, will be reviewing Monday Night Raw from Monday, August 14th, 2023. As you can see, it is just me this time around. My other co-host, Minnie, is out on another assignment, so you will just be getting me, but we're going to talk about Monday Night Raw, and we're going to get through it. So, I mentioned this on the SmackDown review last week. I feel like creatives kind of switched between Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, so it's kind of weird. This was another great episode of Raw. Well, it was almost a great episode of Raw. We'll get to the women's match because, ooh, boy. Yeah, we'll just get to it. But overall, I thought this was a good episode of Raw, but let's break it down, shall we? So, Monday Night Raw this week opens up with Judgment Day there in the ring, but with no Finn Balor with them. Damian Priest says that Finn Balor should have won at SummerSlam and they should have won their match last week. Priest says communication has been an issue, but as long as he is Senior Money in the Bank, Judgment Day will have it under control. He says Balor will take care of Cody Rhodes tonight because he's one of the greatest and he should be saying that himself, but he's not here. Priest says that they're not breaking up. Him and Balor are smarter than that, but Balor should be here. Rhea Ripley tells Priest to calm down. Priest says they can't pretend there's nothing wrong with Judgment Day. Priest tells Dominic to back him up. At this point, JD McDonough interrupts. Priest tells him to be careful with what comes out of his mouth. JD says he means no disrespect to the most dominant faction in all of WWE. He came out here tonight because he had a message from Balor, which is that they shouldn't worry about his friendship with Balor, but they should worry about Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn. Ripley tells JD they don't take orders from anyone. Dom speaks, but the boos are so loud that it's hard to hear what he is saying. Dom says he just found out that Canada is part of North America, so he's the champion of this dump too. Sami Zayn at this point interrupts and immediately goes after McDonough. So overall, this opening segment, it continues to add nuance and more story beats to the Judgment Day storyline, and that will continue to play a part in the main event later tonight. But after Sami comes down and beats up JD McDonough, we get a match between Sami and JD. I thought this was a really fun match. This is a good opener. This match went on for about 11 and a half minutes or so. And you know what? This is what I expect. Sami Zayn out here jumping off and being angry. JD showing off what he can do. I'm just happy to see JD McDonough on my television screen. And finally, once he got called up from NXT and now he's on the main roster, I'm just happy he's on here. But ultimately, Sami Zayn gets the victory here as he picks up a win against JD. Post-match, Finn Balor immediately comes down to the ring and goes after Sami. But Sami, being the quick, nimble Canadian that he is, he manages to escape. But this will not be the last we see of Sami Zayn today. Nah, in the words of LA Knight, because he's going to be coming back a little bit later tonight. We then head backstage where we see Chelsea Green talking to Adam Pearce, and she tells him that she's going to hold auditions for her new tag team partner, which she's going to call it Chelsea's Got Talent. So Pearce is about to say that she has to relinquish the title, but Chelsea stops him. She says that she's worked hard for these titles. Chelsea threatens to call her lawyers and human resources on him, so continuing with her caring character. Pearce asks what he should do. Chelsea suggests to hold auditions, like I said, for her next tag team partner called Chelsea's Got Talent. At this point, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter roll up in this segment, and they want a shot at the title as soon as Chelsea finds a new partner, and then they bounce. Then, somebody who I haven't seen on my television screen for quite some time, Piper Niven, rolls up and lays both Chance and Carter out. After that, Niven says that she's Chelsea's new partner. Chelsea suggests she leaves her name, number, Insta handle, and she'll get back to her. But Niven takes one of the tag team titles from Chelsea and reiterates that she is now Chelsea's partner and she doesn't take no for an answer. So I said this last week during the Monday Night Raw review. I was hoping that they would not relinquish the titles because I think Chelsea is great in ring and her character is a lot of fun. I love Chelsea Green. And I'm so happy that Piper Niven is back on my television screen. I'm like, homegirl, where have we been? So I know a lot of people in the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, are not happy about this random tag team being thrown together. But honestly, it kind of solves two problems, and I'm okay with it. We don't have to have the women's tag titles relinquished because that's not fair to Chelsea. And it also gets Piper Niven back on television. And I just want to see Piper wrestle. I know she can go. Her work in NXT UK speaks for itself. And I'm excited for all this. So, at this point, we get a backstage where Byron interviews Cody and, just Cody doing Cody things. Like, there still seems to be some tension between him and Seth. But let's get into the next segment, which I thought this was crazy. So, next we see Imperium kind of out and about near the commentator's desk. So, Gunther is standing on the announcer's table. He says as a European, he has always looked forward to coming to Canada, but after being here all morning, he understands why Winnipeg is the armpit of Canada. So, doing a callback to what Dom said earlier in his promo. But he's here to address Chad Gable. Gunther says Gable has been working hard for years. A former Olympian, maybe the best athlete this company has to offer, but he has achieved more in a year than Gable has in his whole career. At this point, Alpha Academy come down and interrupt. Gable says 2 weeks ago, Gunther put time on the clock, and he said he couldn't last 5 minutes with him, but he did and beat Gunther at his own game. Now, Gunther is on the clock because Gunther is weeks from setting the all-time record of longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. Just one thing is standing in his way, and it's the guy that's been waiting for an opportunity for 10 whole years. Gable then tells Giovanni Vinci to get in the ring and prepare for some free lessons from Master Gable. Ludwig Kaiser says Vinci belongs to the creme de la creme the WWE has to offer. Eventually, Madame Maxine will understand that she should surround herself with some European elegance. Man, this is a weird thing from Kaiser to say, but it is what it is. He continues to say, took a look at her and them. That is A-plus aesthetics. Alpha Academy is a sinking ship. Maxine shouldn't worry because Kaiser is reaching out his hand to her. She can take it and let him save her, or she is going to let that 360-pound anchor drag her all the way down until she becomes what they already are, an absolute embarrassment, which proceeds to see Maxine slap Kaiser, which leads into a couple of matches, actually. So first up, we have Chad Gable taking on Giovanni Vinci. This was a nice 5-minute match. Obviously, this was to serve the purpose that Gable is out here making moves. This was a great way for Gable to show he is still a contender for Gunther. And so Gable easily picks up the win against Giovanni Vinci. So after the match, Gunther shouts that this is not how this ends tonight. If this is the armpit of Canada, then Otis is the armpit of humanity. Which at this point, Gunther then challenges Otis to a match, which we get next. So in a non-title match, we see Gunther taking on Otis. This was another 5-minute match. Obviously, we knew what was going to happen. You don't want Otis to pin Gunther, so obviously Gunther picks up the victory here. Poor Otis continuing to lose, but for the storyline purposes, you can't make Gable lose because he is the number one contender for this Intercontinental Championship. So, as this match is over, Chad Gable immediately runs into the ring and drops Gunther with a German suplex, which is beautiful, by the way. And ultimately, these two matches together, I love that we're continuing to build towards this match between Gunther and Chad Gable. At this point of the show, I thought this was going to lead to a match at Payback, but then once I saw the bumpers for upcoming Raw episodes, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're not getting Payback. I hope that if some shenanigans happens in 2 weeks with this match, and then we get a match at Payback, but who knows at this point. So next we get like a quick backstage segment that kind of pans to earlier today, where Drew McIntyre is being interviewed backstage, and who should come up next to him but Matt Riddle. And they are forming a tag team for tonight, known as the Glass Bro. Honestly, I kind of am here for the name, but then I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, Drew's going to turn tonight, or something's going to happen, because we're slowly getting Drew being a heel again. And, it's going to be very fantastic when it happens. And I was like, at this point of the show, I was like, oh, okay, I guess Drew is turning on Matt. All right, that's fine. This isn't really a big thing to recap, but we got a vignette for Indy Hartwell, which I love to see. I love Indy. I'm gonna talk about Indy in a little bit because I have some questions. But after that little vignette, Drew McIntyre and Riddle take on the Viking Raiders. So they actually make a good tag team, and I was wrong. Drew didn't turn heel tonight. Maybe they want to build this tag team a little bit more, which is fine. The Viking Raiders are just being jobbed out to tag teams, which is unfortunate, but I don't want to say right now that's where they should be, but I would love to see Viking Raiders like from NXT to now. I'm kind of sad to see what they've become, but it is what it is. And I'm hoping that, we could still get some momentum built between them. So this should be interesting. Okay. So if y'all are up to date of what's going on in the internet lands, like this next segment made me freaking laugh hysterical. So we cut backstage and Riddle tells Drew that they are unstoppable. McIntyre tells him to pump the brakes. Riddle thinks they can win the tag team championships. And at this point, the New Day walk up. Xavier Woods is unhappy that they're talking about winning the titles on Kofi Kingston's birthday. Kingston says they won one match and are talking about the titles. And at this point, at the end of the segment, New Day challenged them to a match next week. Riddle accepts on behalf of the Glass Bros, and the winner of this match will become number one contenders for the tag team championships. Not only that, this segment made me laugh because Xavier and Kofi were holding plastic chairs. And if anybody knows what happened, man, this is a nod to what the Alabama boat brawl. And if you don't know what that is, please do yourself a favor, look it up. But Xavier's out. This is how you do things for the culture without like saying explicitly you're doing it for the culture. And I've always loved New Day. Like they are for the black culture. I love them to death. And this was a nod to the Alabama boat brawl. And if you don't know what that is, like once again, please look it up. It is crazy, and it's been taking over the internet the last couple of days. But I'm loving that this match is going to happen next week, and I'm interested to see who we get for the tag team championships. I would love the New Day, but you know what? Glass Bros would be fun as well, but we shall see who ends up winning when this match comes. So next we get a non-title match where Mommy Rhea Ripley takes on Indy Hartwell. First and foremost, I'm happy to see that Indy is healed up from her injury, and I'm happy to see her back in the wrestling ring. I'm not happy that Rhea Ripley defeated her in 3 minutes. Man, okay, how do I put this nicely? I don't understand why, when the draft happened, that the main roster decided to pick a lot of the women's champions and bring them up. Like, Indy had just won the NXT Women's Champion and barely defended it at Heat Wave before she got called up to the main roster. And then she vacated it. And then she was, obviously she's been out on injury, but like, it makes no sense. But, it's nice to see Rhea wrestle. I wish it was more than 3 minutes, but it is what it is. Now, what happened after this match, though, is the important bit, because it seems that we're not done with Indy and Rhea, because after this match, Indy, joined by Candice LeRae, double team on Rhea, and then they quickly retreat. Now, on the one hand, I normally don't like baby faces being chicken shit baby faces and beating up the bad guy and then running away, but sometimes that's what you got to do. But honestly, this is building towards Indy and or Candice taking on Rhea, which means Rhea's actually going to have a storyline now outside of being the main event side piece to the Judgment Day boys. But I'm excited to see. I hope that it's not a squash match because Candice can go. I would like a good match between this. Please main roster bookie, let Rhea and Candice or Rhea and Indy again, or so whatever the combination you want to go with, please let them have time because I know these three women can go and it will be fantastic. It was at this point of the show where I kind of noticed, I was like, this Winnipeg crowd kind of sucks. And normally Canada crowds are really hot for WWE, but this crowd kind of sucks a little bit. And I don't understand why. I know it's tough sometimes because international crowds can make or break a show, but you guys are in Canada. Like, you guys are in Winnipeg. Like, this is Trish Stratus's hometown. Like, there's a lot of Canadian wrestlers, but this crowd kind of sucked. And I don't want to be that guy, but holy shit, Puerto Rico still has the best international crowd, in my opinion. They were hot for the Backlash pay-per-view, and that pay-per-view on paper shouldn't have been as fun, but the crowd made it better. I was kind of disappointed with the Winnipeg crowd, but, it is what it is. So, this next segment is interesting. So, next up, Michael Cole is in the ring, and he has Shinsuke Nakamura. Cole says Nakamura has known Seth Rollins his entire career, and they've had tremendous respect for each other. So then Michael Cole asks the dumbest question in WWE is, why did Nakamura attack Rollins last week? Nakamura speaks in Japanese, and then he says in English, I want the world title. I kind of wish that WWE allowed subtitles like AEW does, but it's not neither here nor there. Cole asks if he really needed to kick Rollins in the head for that. Nakamura then once again speaks in Japanese. And at this point, Seth's music hits and burn it down. Seth interrupts. Rollins says Cole did a great job, but he'll take it from here. Rollins welcomes Winnipeg to Monday Night Rollins. Rollins says he has to hand it to Nakamura. Nakamura played him to perfection last week. If Nakamura wanted to crack at the title, all he had to do was ask. But Nakamura kicked him in the face, and for a week, everyone has been asking, why, Nakamura, why? But Rollins is less concerned with why and more concerned with how he can get even. Rollins has a surprise for Nakamura. Nakamura wins. The best way for Rollins to get what he wants is to give Nakamura what he wants. If last week's attack was a challenge, then he accepts the challenge. It'll be the King of Strong Style versus the Visionary for the World Heavyweight Championship. So, I'm excited. It's going to be fun. Nakamura can name the time and place, and Rollins will be there to kick his ass. Rollins extends his hand. Nakamura shakes his hand, and then he leans in to whisper something into Rollins' ear. Rollins looks shocked, but we don't know what Nakamura said to him. Nakamura then leaves the ring, and then he runs back afterwards to hit Rollins with another Kinshasa. I'm not going to lie, if Shinsuke comes and hits Rollins every week with the Kinshasa just cuz, I'm actually kind of here for it. I'm very interested from a storytelling perspective exactly what Shinsuke told Seth that kind of got him shocked. I'm hoping we get that within the next couple of weeks, but we're getting Shinsuke versus Seth for this title, and I'm excited because I've always wanted Shinsuke to get a push. Seth has been doing phenomenal work, and he's being the workhorse champion. Like, I'm excited to see where this feud goes. Next up, we get a quick backstage segment where The Miz is there, and he's been interviewed by Byron Saxton. And this backstage interview amounts to that Miz says he will beat someone bigger, faster, stronger, and more dominant than anyone Knight has faced in his career next week, and he might even show up on SmackDown this Friday. So we're continuing this feud with LA Knight and Miz. I would not be surprised to see Miz make it to SmackDown on Friday. I've already said last week I'm excited for this feud, but I'm going to be a little cautiously optimistic and hope that WWE doesn't botch the booking of this, but I think promo battles are going to be great between these two, but I just hope LA Knight kind of just keeps a cool head and try not to mess up like he did a little bit last week, but this is going to be fire. Oh my gosh, I really don't want to talk about this next match because on the one hand, I want to support women's wrestling, and I believe in women's wrestling, but I also have to keep it all the way real with this one. But the next match we get is Becky versus Trish, the one that was supposed to happen at SummerSlam. So I don't know where to begin. Like, this match wasn't very good, and I was kind of disappointed. And I'm gonna be honest, the match itself was not great. Becky and Trish were lacking some communication. The chemistry was just off tonight. And I know they can work together because I've seen it before when they were on the same side. But now that they're against each other, this was not it. And eventually, and what's even worse is that this match ends in a double countout. And we did, man, fine, sure, whatever, okay. But this is how we're gonna end this match. Oh my gosh, I was so frustrated. But to be honest, like I said, this crowd didn't deserve a better ending than what had happened. But you know what? This match was not it. But then after the match, Becky and Lynch decide to continue fighting. They brawl through the crowd and the backstage area. At this point, Zoe Stark joins the backstage and Trish stands tall at the end with an assist from Zoe Stark as they're beating up Becky backstage. But man, I was really disappointed with this match. And I know, and I've seen a lot of people say that, oh, they wanted this match on SummerSlam. It was going to be garbage anyways. Who knows? Who can say? This match was not it, and this kind of sucked the wind out of the sail. I was just like, you pushed this off the SummerSlam card. You waited 2 weeks for it. And honestly, I think Becky and Trish are just over it because I think they're both still pissed that their match was not at SummerSlam. And honestly, this was not how I wanted this match to go. It was not great. And it kind of makes me disappointed. But it seems that there may be a little ray of hope depending on, what happens next, which I'll get into in a little bit. But honestly, this was probably the worst part of Monday Night Raw. And it's sad to say because it involves Legend Trish and then Becky, who is one of the top women's talents right now WWE has. But this match sucked the wind out of the room, and I was really disappointed. Man, it really hurt to watch. And, I told the other Bi-Conic guys about this, and man, it's just disappointing. I'm not upset. I'm not frustrated. I'm just disappointed. And just everything leading into this match was just a mess because the match got pulled from SummerSlam. Trish wasn't even there last week to build up to this match. And Becky and Trish, I know, are just over it. So we'll see. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. So we get another backstage segment where Gunther says tonight was an absolute embarrassment for Imperium. What should he do with Giovanni Vinci? Ever since they've come to Raw, Vinci has been disappointing. As for Kaiser, he neglected all his responsibilities because he was focused on Maxine. What's more important? Gunther asks, and Kaiser apologizes. It should have never happened, but Kaiser guarantees it will never happen again. Kaiser can fix it, but Gunther says he'll fix it himself. And if Chad Gable wants his title, he'll have to take it off him next week. So apparently we're getting this match next week. Okay, cool. I thought we were going to wait until Payback, but you know what? This is going to be a banging match if they give it time. Please give it time because I'm going to be upset if you don't. Okay, so then we go to another backstage segment where we see Trish and Zoe just being heels and celebrating. Adam Pearce comes up and is like, Trish, this was not the match. This was not it, sis. And so Becky and Trish are going to have another match, but this time when they face each other, it's going to be inside a steel cage. Now, the important thing to realize with this segment is that we weren't told when this match is happening. So I'm hoping this match takes place at Payback, where these two will fight in a steel cage and shenanigans will happen. And honestly, I am here for it because they need a rematch to make up for this crap because this was not it and this is not what I wanted. We get the bumper set for next week's Monday Night Raw where we're going to have our Intercontinental Championship match. And then we're going to see Drew and Matt take on the New Day, and the winner of that match becomes number one contenders of the Tag Team Championships. I don't think Gable's winning next week, but I hope shenanigans happens that will force a rematch at Payback, which I'm kind of here for. In our main event segment, we see Cody Rhodes taking on Finn Balor. This was given some good time. I thought this match served a purpose, and it added extra story beats in. Obviously, LOL, Cody wins, but let's talk about what went down during the match. So, during the match, Damian Priest tries to help out by sliding Finn the briefcase, but it slides underneath Finn, and it goes to Cody's hands, in which Cody then decks him with it and then pins Finn for the win. And after the match, Judgment Day attack Cody. Sami Zayn comes out with a chair and manages to clear house. All of a sudden, Sami is attacked by JD McDonough and allows Judgment Day to gang up on Sami. Priest hits the South of Heaven to Cody, and Balor follows up with a coup de grace. Priest slams Sami through the announcer table with the Razor's Edge. Finn then hits Cody with another coup de grace to end the beatdown as the show goes off the air. So, that brings us to the end of my review for Monday Night Raw. Overall, I thought this was another fun episode of Raw, and it was actually really good. We got new faces on television wrestling. We got progression of storylines. And you know what? There was a lot more wrestling matches than there has been in the last couple weeks, and I'm not going to complain. My biggest downside, though, obviously was Becky versus Trish, because that was not it, sis. And I was so disappointed with that match. And it almost ruined the rest of Monday Night Raw for me because of how not great that match was. So, with that all being said, my final rating for this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, I'm going to honestly give it a 7 out of 10. It would have been an 8 out of 10, but because of the fact of how good everything was. But what brought it down to a 7 was that Becky versus Trish match. I am excited that we are going to get a rematch, and I hope it's at Payback in that steel cage. But man, this was not it. And what also brought it down to the 7 is the Winnipeg crowd during this episode sucked. Listen, I know not everyone can be Puerto Rico because I think that's unfair to international crowds to, use as a bar. But holy hell, the Puerto Rico crowd for a paper-thin Backlash pay-per-view card, they made that so much more better than it was. And honestly, Backlash is still probably my favorite WWE pay-per-view this year. And we still have Payback, Fastlane, and Survivor Series to go. No, we here at the Bi-Conics do not count Crown Jewel as a pay-per-view because it's a Saudi Arabia show. And the results of those never play into the canon of WWE television. So it is what it is. But that is going to be it for my Raw review for this week. So that is going to be it for me and the Mini, even though he's not here, the Raw squad. If you liked our long-form review of this episode of Monday Night Raw, make sure to hit that bell notification and subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our other long-form reviews where we pretty much cover all WWE, AEW, weekly television shows, as well as Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling. We also review the pay-per-views. We just reviewed SummerSlam last week, and we had our first guest, Luis, who is now an official member of the Bi-Conics, and he had some great takes. Make sure to go watch that pay-per-view review. If you want, you can also follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod on Threads, Instagram, X, and wherever other social media, and TikTok, wherever social medias can be found. If you want something different, you can check out our podcast, where all podcasts can be found to listen to us nerd about wrestling. But that is going to be it. This has been Mikey for the Raw review. And remember, from all of us here at the Bi-Conics, remember, take care of yourself, love one another. And from all of us here at the Bi-Conics, adios, sayonara. And until the next review, thanks for watching. See you later.